Ladies and gentlemen, football has done it again. When the World Cup arrives, rankings don't matter, reputation doesn't matter, market value doesn't matter. And today, we witnessed one of the biggest stories of the tournament so far as Spain, one of the favourites to win the World Cup, were held to a stunning 0-0 draw by World Cup debutants Cabo Verde. A nation of roughly 500,000 people stepped onto football's biggest stage for the very first time and refused to be intimidated. Coming into this match, everybody expected Spain to dominate. Most people were predicting 3, 4, maybe even 5 goals for the European champions. Instead, after 90 minutes, the scoreboard read Spain 0, Cabo Verde 0, and while technically it's a draw, make no mistake about it, this felt like a victory for Cabo Verde and a defeat for Spain. Today we're breaking down how Cabo Verde produced the performance of their lives, why Spain struggled, and what this result means going forward. Let's get into it. From the opening whistle, the pattern was exactly what everyone expected. Spain had the ball, Spain controlled possession, Spain pushed forward, and Cabo Verde sat deep, stayed compact, and defended with incredible discipline. The statistics tell the story. Spain enjoyed around 75% possession and fired 27 attempts at goal, but somehow could not find a breakthrough. For most teams, facing wave after wave of Spanish attacks would eventually break their concentration. Not Cabo Verde. Every player knew their role. Every player worked for the team. Every player was willing to suffer without the ball. And that collective effort is what made this result possible. Let's talk about the biggest reason Spain didn't score: the defensive organization. This wasn't a lucky draw. This wasn't Spain missing open goals for 90 minutes. Cabo Verde executed a tactical plan almost perfectly. Whenever Spain entered the final third, Cabo Verde collapsed around the ball. The back line stayed compact. The midfield tracked runners. The forwards dropped deep to help. There were no huge gaps between the lines, no panic, no reckless challenges, just discipline. Spain continuously circulated possession around the box, but rarely found clear spaces. Time after time, a red shirt looked ready to shoot, and suddenly there were 2 or 3 white shirts in the way. A through ball looked possible, and then a Cabo Verde defender stepped across. A cross came into the area, and somebody got a head to it. This was defensive football at its finest. Sometimes people use the phrase parking the bus as an insult, but defending well is a skill. Defending with concentration for 90 minutes against one of the best teams in the world is an art form, and Cabo Verde mastered it. Of course, no discussion of this game can happen without talking about the man of the match. Vozinha, the 40-year-old goalkeeper, became the symbol of Cabo Verde's historic afternoon. When Spain did manage to create opportunities, he was there. When Ferran Torres threatened, he was there. When crosses flew into the box, he was there. When pressure mounted late in the game, he was there. Save after save after save. The veteran goalkeeper produced one of the greatest performances of his career on the biggest stage possible. Reports credited him with multiple crucial saves as Spain threw everything forward, searching for a winner. And when the final whistle blew, the emotion was impossible to ignore. You could see what it meant, not just to him, not just to the players, but to an entire nation. This wasn't simply a draw, this was history. Now let's talk about Spain. Because while Cabo Verde deserve enormous credit, Spain also have to look at themselves. The European champions dominated possession, but looked surprisingly toothless in attack. They moved the ball well in midfield, they controlled territory, they pinned Cabo Verde back for long periods. But football isn't won by possession statistics, it's won by goals. And Spain couldn't find one. Too many attacks ended with hopeful crosses. Too many moves broke down around the penalty area. Too many shots were blocked. Too many chances lacked conviction. For long stretches, Spain looked like a team searching for answers rather than a team that had them. The frustration grew with every passing minute. The longer the match stayed scoreless, the more belief Cabo Verde gained, and the more nervous Spain became. That's the beauty of football. Pressure changes sides. At kickoff, all the pressure was on Cabo Verde. By the 89th minute, it was all on Spain. One thing that impressed me most wasn't the defending, it was the mentality. Many underdog teams defend bravely for an hour and then crumble. Cabo Verde never stopped believing. In fact, as the game went on, they started looking more confident. They began carrying the ball forward. They looked for counter-attacks. They even created some dangerous moments of their own late in the match. That's what separates a respectable defeat from a historic result. They weren't simply trying to survive, they were competing. They played without fear. And that's remarkable when you consider the occasion. First World Cup match, global audience watching, one of the tournament favourites standing across from them. Many teams would freeze. Cabo Verde grew stronger. Football fans often focus on superstars, goal scorers, playmakers, big names, but this result was built on teamwork. Every Cabo Verde player contributed. The defenders blocked shots, the midfielders covered enormous ground, the forwards chased, lost causes, and relieved pressure whenever possible. Nobody tried to be a hero, everybody sacrificed for the team, and that's why this performance will be remembered. You don't hold Spain to zero through individual brilliance alone. You do it through collective effort, through organization, through communication, through trust. Cabo Verde displayed all of those qualities. Now let's talk about why this draw is so important. For Spain, this is a warning. The World Cup doesn't care about reputations. Every opponent believes, every opponent fights. And if Spain want to challenge for the trophy, they must become more clinical in front of goal. For Cabo Verde, however, this result changes everything. Before the tournament, many people viewed them as outsiders, simply happy to be here. Not anymore. Now every team in Group H knows they are difficult to beat. Now every opponent knows they possess belief. Now every player in that dressing room knows they belong at this level. That confidence can carry a team a very long way. Could Cabo Verde become the fairy tale story of this World Cup? It's still early, but performances like this are how unforgettable journeys begin. Think about the great underdog stories in World Cup history. They usually start with a result nobody expected, a draw, a shock victory, a performance that captures the imagination of football fans around the world. This feels like one of those moments. A debutant nation, a legendary defensive display, a veteran goalkeeper turning back the clock, and a point earned against one of the strongest teams in international football. That's the stuff World Cup dreams are made of. At the end of the day, the scoreline says Spain 0, Cabo Verde 0. But that score doesn't tell the whole story. This was courage, this was discipline, this was resilience, this was a team refusing to accept the script written for them. Spain had the stars, Spain had the possession, Spain had the chances, but Cabo Verde had the heart. And on this historic afternoon, heart was enough. For Spain, it's 2 points dropped. For Cabo Verde, it's a moment their fans will remember forever. A World Cup debut, a clean sheet, a point against a giant, and a performance that proved they belong on football's biggest stage. If they continue playing with this level of commitment and belief, don't be surprised if Cabo Verde become one of the stories of the tournament, because today they played the match of their lives and the entire football world noticed. What did you think of Cabo Verde's incredible performance? Can they qualify from the group? And was this one of the biggest World Cup upsets we've seen in recent years? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more World Cup coverage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.